So picture this. It's 8 o'clock tonight in Qián.
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah. And your brain's evolutionary warning system is just going to be absolutely screaming at you.
Screaming to run away, I assume.
Exactly. To run far away from a smell that honestly strongly resembles rotting gym socks.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's descriptive.
Right. I mean, every instinct you have, forged by millions of years of human survival, is telling you that the odor of, putrefaction basically means danger.
Do not eat that.
Do not eat that.
Yeah.
Yet, there are thousands of people lined up, shoulder to shoulder, completely ignoring their biological survival instincts.
Just to hand over their money for the privilege of eating it.
Yes.
It's so wild.
It really is a profound neurological contradiction. I mean, you're taking this literal biological alarm bell and just turning it into a culinary destination.
And that paradox, that exact contradiction is kind of the engine of our deep dive today.
I love it.
Yeah, we're taking a traveler's firsthand account of the massive night markets in Xi'an, China, and we are just totally stripping it down. Because, we aren't just here to read you a menu.
No, not at all. Our goal is to actually decode the underlying mechanics of these really sensory-rich ecosystems.
Right, like we're going to unpack the structural engineering, engineering of hand-pulled noodles.
And the biological hacking behind those super pungent fermented foods.
And, of course, the ruthless microeconomics that somehow allow a vendor to feed you this huge multi-course feast for, less than $10.
It's crazy, because a night market, it's not just a place to grab a bite.
No, it's a highly optimized engine of commerce. It's this living artifact of regional history.
And really a masterclass in urban social dynamics. If you understand the mechanics of the market, you basically understand the city itself.
So true.
So let's just start with the geographic foundation here. The traveler's account, it kicks off at 7 p.m.
Okay, so the market is just waking up at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the very first thing that hits your olfactory system isn't like a delicate pastry or something. It's the heavy, thick smoke of charcoal and roasting lamb.
Which is so interesting because for an audience that knows Chinese cuisine, lamb isn't always the very first protein that comes to mind.
Right, especially if you're used to the really pork-heavy dishes of the southern provinces.
But Xi'an is entirely different.
It is. Why is that?
Well, geography basically dictates the palette here. Xi'an is the historic eastern terminus of the Silk Road.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so for centuries, it's been this major hub for the Hui Muslim community, and that has fundamentally shaped the regional flavor profile.
So that heavy smoke the traveler describes.
It's laced with massive amounts of toasted cumin and ground chili.
Wow.
Yeah, so this isn't just, standard street food. It's a direct continuation of these nomadic overland trade routes that connected China all the way to Central Asia and the Middle East.
That's fascinating. And the cooking mechanism itself, it's kind of primitive, but it's perfect.
The charcoal grills.
Yeah. The traveler specifically notes these small stalls grilling meat directly over open charcoal. But if we look at the thermodynamics of that, it raises a question. Which is, you could so easily cook that lamb on like a flat-top gas griddle.
Right, sure. It would be faster.
Faster, way easier to clean, and probably cheaper.
Yeah.
So why endure the smoke and the, unpredictable heat of charcoal?
It all comes down to radiant heat and fat vaporization.
Vaporization. Okay, break that down for me.
So think about a gas griddle. It conducts heat through direct contact, right? Which sears the meat, sure, but it kind of just leaves all the rendered fat pooling around it.
Right, it just sits there in its own grease.
Exactly. Charcoal, on the other hand, provides this really intense, uneven, radiant heat.
Okay.
So when the fat from that really specific cut of lamb melts, it doesn't pool. It drips directly down onto the white-hot coals.
Oh, wow. And then what?
The literal moment it hits the carbon, it vaporizes. It instantly creates this complex aerosol of flavor compounds.
So that just rises back up.
Yes, it rises straight back up and coats the meat. So that smoke, it's not a byproduct of the cooking.
It's actually an active ingredient.
It's an active ingredient.
It's essentially self-basting the meat with its own vaporized fats.
Exactly.
That sounds incredible. But to balance that, high heat, protein-heavy umami punch, the traveler immediately seeks out a starchy baseline.
Right, you need something to ground it.
Yeah, so they go for baozi.
Ah, steamed buns.
Yep, steamed buns filled with pork and cabbage. And the biological craving for that right then makes perfect sense to
Yeah,
me.
totally. The lamb is so intense and so heavily spiced.
Right, so the baozi provides this gentle, gelatinized starch that you desperately need to just absorb the residual fats.
That kind of calm the palate down a bit.
Exactly. But then the traveler encounters the hand-pulled noodle stalls.
Oh, this is the best part.
They describe the cook stretching and slapping the dough, and they literally call it like watching a show.
It is an incredibly visual process, I mean, if you've ever seen it.
I have. And here is where I actually have to challenge the narrative of the show a little bit.
Oh, how so?
Well, isn't this highly theatrical hand-pulling just kind of a modern tourist trap gimmick?
You think it's a gimmick?
I mean, think about it. We have machines today that can extrude perfectly uniform noodles in a fraction of a second.
True.
So the whole routine of stretching, twisting, and like violently slapping the dough on a counter, it feels a bit like manufactured dinner theater.
Just designed to justify a markup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Does it actually impact the food at a molecular level?
Okay, see where you're coming from. It looks like theater, yes, but it's actually structural engineering.
Okay, I'm listening.
The difference between a machine-extruded noodle and a hand-pulled noodle basically comes down to how the gluten network is formed.
The gluten network.
Yeah. So when a machine extrudes dough, it just forces these random tangled proteins through a metal die under immense pressure.
Okay, so it just compresses them.
Right. It compresses them into a shape. But when a chef hand pulls the dough, when they stretch it, fold it, and slap it against the table over and over,
What's happening there?
they are forcefully aligning those gluten strands in one continuous parallel direction.
Oh. So you're creating a grain in the dough, almost like the grain in a piece of wood.
Exactly that. And by aligning the proteins and incorporating these tiny microscopic pockets of air through all that folding, the noodle achieves a very specific elasticity.
Right, that springy, chewy texture.
Yes, the Chinese actually refer to that texture as Q. And a machine simply cannot replicate the structural integrity of a parallel gluten network.
Wow, so the theater is just a byproduct of the physics required to make the noodle perfect.
Precisely.
So the transparency of the process isn't just about entertainment at all. It's literal proof of structural quality.
You are watching the engineering happen in real time right in front of you.
That is so cool. But, okay, eating heavily spiced lamb, dense steamed buns, and these thick, chewy noodles, that creates massive palate fatigue.
Oh, your taste buds would be exhausted.
Totally. The traveler notes the absolute necessity of palate cleansers just to keep going. They mention fresh coconut water chopped open right on the spot.
Which is so refreshing.
Because once you lay down that safe, familiar, savory foundation, the real night market experience requires you to kind of push your biological boundaries.
Which brings us back to the rotting gym socks.
Yes, it does. The infamous stinky tofu.
The ultimate test.
The traveler openly admits they were terrified to try it. And, I mean, the smell is deeply intimidating.
It really is.
And this goes back to our initial paradox. I look at this almost like a vaccine for the palate.
More vaccine. I like that analogy.
Right. We are intentionally introducing a perceived biological threat to trigger this massive, rewarding biological response.
Exactly.
So walk us through the actual biochemistry here. What is happening in that fermentation vat that makes this terrifying food so irresistible?
Okay, so the smell that triggers your evolutionary alarm bells, the gym sock smell, is primarily caused by sulfur compounds and indole.
And those come from where?
They are byproducts of the fermentation brine. Historically, this brine is made from fermented milk, vegetables, and meat, and it's left to culture for months.
Months? Wow.
Yeah, so your olfactory bulb is doing its job. It's warning you about these volatile compounds. But the actual magic happens beneath the smell.
What do you mean?
During that really long fermentation process, enzymes systematically break down the super dense soy proteins of the tofu into free amino acids.
Okay. And the most abundant of those amino acids is glutamate.
Precisely. And glutamate is the molecular foundation of umami.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. So when you finally bypass your nose, take a bite of that crispy exterior and hit the soft fermented interior.
Yeah.
Your taste receptors are just flooded with pure concentrated umami.
Wow. So your brain suddenly realizes, wait, this isn't poison.
Exactly. It realizes it is a highly complex, easily digestible, and incredibly savory protein source. The initial fear actually creates a contrast that heightens the ultimate dopamine reward.
It's the friction that makes the payoff so satisfying. Overcoming the instinctual revulsion literally amplifies the pleasure of the taste.
It really does. It's a thrill.
But of course, after you overwhelm your system with fermented, pungent, complex umami, your body is going to demand a hard reset.
Total palate exhaustion.
Which explains why the traveler's next immediate stop is tanghulu.
Oh, such a brilliant transition. From extreme complexity to pure, crystalline simplicity.
Yeah, for those who might be unfamiliar, tanghulu is candied fruit on a stick.
It's beautiful, too.
It is. The traveler specifically notes hawthorn fruit, coated in this hard shell of sugar. But my question is, why this specific dessert?
Instead of something richer.
Yeah, why not a complex pastry or, I don't know, a rich cake?
Well, again, it comes down to sensory fatigue.
Okay.
Think about it. After the heavy lipids of the lamb, the dense starches of the baozi, and then those overwhelming amino acids of the stocky tofu, your taste buds are chemically exhausted.
They need a break.
Right. A heavy pastry would just add to the burden. But hawthorn fruit, which is known scientifically as Crotechis pinnitifera, has a very high natural acidity.
And high pectin content, right?
Exactly. It is sharply tart.
And the coating on the outside isn't just like a soft glaze. It's a really specific steed of sucrose.
Right. It's sugar heated to the hard crack stage, so roughly 300 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which creates that incredibly thin, glass-like shell.
Yes. So mechanically speaking, you bite into this brittle, shattering layer of pure, simple sweetness, which instantly gives way to an aggressive, bright acidity from the fruit.
Oh, man.
That sharp contrast of sweet and sour acts as a chemical astringent. It completely wipes the palate clean.
It's the perfect, necessary conclusion to a heavy, chaotic meal.
It really is.
So, essentially, we have engineered the perfect meal here. Charcoal vaporized lamb, structurally aligned noodles, a palate vaccine of fermented tofu, and a shattering glass shell of tart hawthorn fruit.
A massive multi-course feast.
Exactly. Now, we really need to pull back the curtain on the financial engine that makes all of this possible.
The money side of things.
Because the traveler notes that this entire experience, all that food we just talked about, cost them about 60 RMB.
Which is what, roughly 8 or 9 US dollars?
Yeah. $8 or $9.
The microeconomics of this environment are absolutely fascinating.
Let's analyze how that is even mathematically viable. How does an independent vendor source protein, maintain a stall, pay for expensive lump charcoal, and sell a skewer of meat for literally pennies without operating at a massive loss?
It is achieved through ruthless hyper-specialization and the total elimination of overhead.
Walk me through that comparison, like versus a traditional restaurant.
Okay, so if you run a traditional restaurant, you have a massive, diverse inventory. You have to prep 20 different dishes.
Which inevitably leads to food waste.
Tons of food waste. Plus, you have to pay for a large, climate-controlled dining room that just sits empty for hours between meal rushes, wait staff, menus, all of it.
Right.
A night market stall eliminates all of that overhead.
Because they don't do 20 things. They do exactly one thing.
One thing, executed thousands of times.
Wow.
So the vendor selling lamb skewers buys wholesale lamb in massive quantities. They use centralized prep kitchens earlier in the day to handle the butchery and skewering.
Oh, so they just bring exactly what they need to the market.
Exactly. There is virtually zero food waste because they literally just sell until they run out, and then they go home.
It's incredibly efficient.
By eliminating the dining room, the wait staff, and the complex inventory, they strip the cost of dining down to raw materials and fuel.
And the transaction itself has been entirely modernized to support this speed, too.
Oh, the mobile payments.
Yeah, the traveler notes that while having a few small cash bills is still useful, the entire market runs on mobile payments like WeChat Pay and Alipay.
Which is huge.
We aren't just talking about convenience here. We are talking about the leapfrogging of traditional credit card infrastructure entirely.
Because traditional credit cards require hardware terminals, right? And they charge percentage-based processing fees.
Which would instantly consume the razor-thin margins of a street vendor selling a $1 baozi.
Exactly. But QR code-based mobile payments, they eliminate the hardware completely and drastically reduce the friction of the transaction.
The vendor just posts a printed piece of paper with a QR code. Boom, done.
Done in seconds.
Which actually brings us to the most rigid rule of the night market economy.
Ah, the haggling rule.
Yeah. The traveler points out a stark behavioral boundary. You can bargain for clothes. You can haggle over electronics or souvenirs all day long.
Sure, that's expected.
But you absolutely do not bargain for food. The prices at the stalls are strictly fixed. even if you only know one phrase in Mandarin du Sheikan, meaning how much, you pay the number they tell you.
It is the golden rule of the food stalls. Do not haggle.
But let's look at the why behind that rule. People often romanticize this, right?
Yeah, they do.
They frame it as a cultural taboo, suggesting that we don't haggle over food out of a deep inherent respect for the chef's craft.
The sanctity of their ingredients, yeah.
Right. But knowing what we just discussed about these razor-thin margins, is this rule actually about respect, or is it just pure mechanical necessity?
It is entirely mechanical.
I knew it!
It is all about the velocity of commerce. I mean, respect for the chef is a nice sentiment, but the vendor's literal survival depends on throughput.
Throughput.
Yes. They have a really narrow operational window, mostly between 6 p.m. and midnight.
So they are racing against the clock to achieve the volume necessary to turn a profit.
Exactly. If a vendor stops to negotiate the price of a single skewer for 2 minutes, the line stalls out.
And in a crowded market, a stagnant line is death.
Total death. Customers will immediately detour to a competitor, so fixed pricing is the essential lubricant that keeps the line moving at maximum speed.
It removes the friction of negotiation, allowing a transaction to occur every 10 seconds.
Right, and that extreme efficiency creates the density of the market.
And that density is the perfect transition to the final and maybe most culturally significant element of the night market, the social engine.
The atmosphere.
Yeah, the traveler describes the atmosphere around 8 p.m. as incredibly crowded, loud, and chaotic. They point out that friends and families go together specifically to share small portions from multiple stalls.
And that proximity isn't a byproduct of the market. It is the defining feature.
Let's contrast this with Western urban planning and dining culture for a second.
Okay, interesting.
In the West, dining is often an exercise in purchasing isolation.
That's a great way to put it.
You go to a restaurant, and you are seated at a private table. The literal architecture of the room is designed to separate you from the people at the next table. You are paying for walls, booths, and distance.
You are buying temporary private property, basically.
Exactly. But the night market functions entirely differently. It operates more like what sociologists call a third place.
A communal space outside of the home and the workplace.
Right. But in a hyperdense Asian megacity, where big public squares might be scarce, the night market kind of takes over the street itself. It becomes a massive open-air community living room.
Yeah.
How does that forced physical proximity change the way citizens interact with their own city?
Well, it acts as a radical flattener of social hierarchy.
Flattener.
Yeah, because in a traditional city grid, socioeconomic status dictates where you eat.
Sure, high-income earners dine in exclusive, gated environments.
And lower-income residents eat in entirely different neighborhoods. The architecture literally enforces social segregation.
But at 8 p.m. in front of a stinky tofu stall, there are no VIP sections.
None. The business executive, the college student, the construction worker, and the local family, they are all standing in the exact same line.
Wow.
They were smelling the exact same charcoal smoke, navigating the exact same chaotic foot traffic, and eating the exact same food.
So the night market temporarily suspends the social stratification of the city.
Yes, it forces a shared physical reality that is honestly increasingly rare in modern urban environments.
It is a democratic physical space fueled by umami and sugar.
I love that.
So let's just distill the mechanics of what we've uncovered today. The night market is far, far more than just a place to cure a late-night craving.
It really is.
First, it's a living timeline of regional history, where the charcoal and cumin of the Silk Road meet the highly engineered, aerated gluten structures of hand-pulled noodles.
And it demands culinary curiosity, right? Challenging your evolutionary alarms with the complex, rewarding fermentation of stinky tofu, only to reset your palate with the shattering tart glass of tanghulu.
Second, it is a masterclass in economic efficiency.
Absolute masterclass.
By stripping away the overhead of traditional dining and relying on hyper-specialization, zero-friction mobile payments, and the strict velocity of fixed prices, vendors can deliver an incredible culinary payload for pennies on the dollar. Armed with just the phrase "du sheng-kan," you are tapping into a highly optimized supply chain.
And finally, it serves a critical sociological function. It provides the essential chaotic density that transforms isolated city dwellers into a cohesive, shoulder-to-shoulder community.
Which leaves you with the final thought to mull over today. We have analyzed how this massive Technicolor street food market acts as a great equalizer, stripping away the social barriers that normally divide a city's population.
Yeah.
So look at your own city. Look at the architecture of how you dine and gather. What is the modern equivalent in your own culture?
Good question.
Is there any gathering place left in your hometown that forces a CEO and a student to stand shoulder to shoulder under bright lights, sharing the exact same experience? Or have we permanently traded that shared chaotic energy for the quiet isolation of our private tables? Something to think about the next time you turn a corner onto a brightly lit street. Until next time, keep looking beneath the surface.